everyone, welcome back to my little corner of the internet. My name is Sunny and I am back with a very different video than I normally make. I want to talk about something that has been like on my mind and I just feel really passionate about it right now. So I figure getting it out and talking it out with whoever wants to listen will help me to move past it. On Friday, October 11th, the Breaking Bad El Camino movie came out and it was amazing. It was absolutely like probably one of my favorite things I watched in 2019. And I want to talk about it because, like I said, I feel a lot of things. I've been trying not to fall down the rabbit hole of wanting to rewatch all of Breaking Bad because I do at this current moment. I want to like recap the whole series, watch it all over, and then watch El Camino again to see how I like it. But I'm trying not to fall down that rabbit hole because I have like 20 shows on my Netflix queue that I should be watching. Or not should be watching. I mean, I could be doing a lot of things with my time besides watching television, but I have a lot of shows that I have like queued to watch later that I never watch. I just keep rewatching the same things over and over and over again. And Breaking Bad is one of those shows that I could easily watch again. I've like tried really hard not to, but now I'm really feeling like now is the time. So El Camino came out on Friday, October 11th, so just a few days ago, and it's still fresh in my mind, and I figured I would just talk about it. This is something that I don't normally do at all on my channel. I don't talk about movies or shows or music or anything like that. I am not an expert on any of those topics. I like what I like, and I talk about it amongst friends, but I mean, I don't know. I just want to get this out, and I feel inspired to do so because, like I said, I have been thinking about it a lot. And I'm hoping that getting it out there will just help me to not think about it as much. I have a little paper with some notes, so if I'm looking down, that is why. I made notes because I'm like super serious about this, super invested in this show, in this movie. I was really fortunate. One of my really, really good friends from OSU called. I went to grad school at OSU with my husband, and one of our really good friends called me, and she's the reason I even knew the movie was coming out. She was super excited about it. We used to have watch parties back when I was at OSU. And we would watch it the last season as it aired. We would make dinner and just make a big production out of it. So she called me and invited me to come to watch it with her and her partner. And so we decided that we were going to do that. We drove to Oklahoma on Friday. We dropped our kids off with our in-laws and drove to Oklahoma on Friday. And we had like a huge, just like amazing little feast and party gathering where we watched the movie, and it was so fun. It was fun watching it. Like the movie experience was great because I got to watch it with the people that I love watching the original show with, and we had, like I said, so much food, and it was just a really, really good time. So I wanted to get that out there because I'm super appreciative for my viewing experience and that I wasn't just watching it alone. My husband and I both got to watch it with our really, really good friends. I thought that the movie was honestly like an A plus even. I thought it was so good, so well done. I don't know if we needed it in terms of, I feel that Vince Gilligan did such a good job ending the show the way that he did. I don't know if we needed a wrap up the way that El Camino, what El Camino provides, but I am really actually happy that he did wrap it up in the way that he did and that he made that movie. I know that he was thinking, based off interviews that I read, that he was thinking of making it a like 20 minutes little special to wrap up. I'm happy that he decided to go for a 2-hour feature film. I thought that that was like brilliant because what Breaking Bad did so well as a show was it took the everyday minutia of living and like made it cinematic, made it something worth watching. So I love that he filled in so many of those gaps and those long pauses and silence, because there is a lot of silence in El Camino, which I really like, because the actors are so good and talented, and it's just such a good show, such a good movie. So yes, I don't think that we need it necessarily to wrap up Jesse's story. I don't think that me as a viewer, I wasn't wondering what happened to him. I kind of like in my head just hoped that he had escaped and had gotten out of this. I will say that this contains spoilers, so if you have not watched the movie, you probably don't want to watch this. Or if you want to watch the show and you haven't watched it yet, don't watch this because I'm going to be talking about both. But yeah, he I thought wrapped it up really well. We know that at the end of the series, Jesse is driving off in the El Camino that he stole from, or not stole, that he took, that really was his because he was freaking chained up like an animal. But he stole, took, borrowed, whatever, the El Camino of the neo-Nazi, I'm blanking on his name. He took his car and we see him driving on the road, like raging out and super excited that he's getting away. And, but we also know that the next scene is Walter White dying in that lab, with the sirens coming around him. So we know that the cops were near, and we don't really know if Jesse, like, we want Jesse to get away. Like, mentally, I always imagine that scene, he was getting away. But we also know that there were cops coming, so it's like it could have gone either way. Maybe he got caught. I really think it just depended on what kind of viewer you were and what kind of ending you wanted it to be, which I appreciated. But I love the fact that we got to wrap up Jesse's story and that we know that when the cops were coming, he was going straight for them, and then he happened to go into a driveway of a house and hide out there while the cops went by. So I'm happy they addressed that. And let's see, I thought that the movie overall was, it didn't do anything new in terms of, I don't feel like it touched any new areas, which I appreciated. I'm personally happy that they didn't jump so far ahead into Jesse's life in Alaska. I know some people had a problem with that. They would have preferred a movie that was about Jesse's life in Alaska, his, maybe 10 years down the road or something. But I honestly really like the fact that we get to see how he escaped and how he got to Alaska, and that the road is open to him, that the choice is his to make. Does he break bad again, or does he go on and live a life on the up and up? And I like to personally believe that he decided to live a life on the up and up, and that he was not going to break bad ever again. But yeah, I thought that the movie did what the show did really well. It provided a lot of dramatic scenes, tense moments that made me like super nervous, and also a lot of funny scenes in the sense that I love the way that the show is able to be funny without being comical, without being slap your knee slapping, whatever, like the Three Stooges is, like that silly funny. I'm happy that the show never did that, and the movie didn't either. I think that it was so tense. One of the more tense scenes I thought existed between Todd, or Meth Damon, as my really good friend that invited us to Oklahoma to watch it with her. She referred to him as that, and we were all dying laughing. It was so funny. I guess it's like a popular name for him, which maybe is really, really rude. Maybe I shouldn't say. So we'll just say Todd. But anyway, I thought that was a really funny name. But Todd is a sociopath. And if you watch the show, he's low-key, like, crazy. He can kill you without batting an eyelash. And we see that in the movie El Camino, because he enlists Jesse's help on removing a dead body of his housekeeper from his house, burying her, all because she found his stash of money. And Todd did not have to murder this woman. He could have gone about it a different way, but Todd is such, like, a non-feeling robot that he cannot even rationalize taking a different route. He sees killing as something supernatural and normal. He even thinks that him and Jesse are friends, even though he's helping to keep Jesse locked up in a lab to cook meth on a dock chain. Like, Todd is insane. And I really thought that scene in the desert with Jesse finding his gun was so tense, because I think if you watch the series, El Camino can stand, I think, on its own as a movie. But if you watch the series, you're familiar with it, you know that Jesse kills Todd at the end with his chains and around his hands. He strangles him to death. And it's like a super gratifying scene, because hell yes, Jesse should be able to kill somebody as evil and ruthless as Todd, who killed the woman that he had recently fallen in love with, like point blank shot her. So it was really nice to see Jesse be able to get some revenge on Todd. But we know in the movie that scene between them cannot end well. We don't know how it ends, but we know that it cannot end well because Jesse kills Todd at the end of the series. And this is a flashback of a moment between Jesse and Todd and the housekeeper. So Jesse finds the gun in the glove box, and is ready to shoot Todd. He holds it up. He's ready to point the gun at him. And Todd pretty much offers him a pizza and tells him, hey, I was going to take you to get a pizza. Give me the gun back. And we watch painstakingly as Jesse does, in fact, give him his gun back. And it was a super, just like, tense scene because as I was watching it with my friends, I thought maybe he's going to shoot the gun at Todd and there won't be any bullets in there. Maybe Todd was testing Jesse to see if Jesse would actually pull the trigger. But no, we know that Jesse is defeated. He is no longer the young kid who shouts, no longer that person. He is somebody who is defeated and feels like he can't get away. He's no longer the same person. He doesn't have that Jesse spark or energy anymore, and we know that from that scene. He gives away his gun twice in the movie. So in the flashback with Todd, and then again with the men who enter Todd's apartment after Jesse has been trying to find out where Todd's money is. We know that he gives away his gun to those men because they pretend to be cops and tell Jesse that they have a whole unit downstairs. And of course, we later find out that those are not cops. And not only that, but Neil, who is our big bad to an extent, was the man who made the dog chain like link or fence that Jesse was tied up to in the lab with the neo-Nazis. So it is... Looking back at that, I wonder if I like that so much. Like, I know that we needed Jesse to get redemption and that he needed to have his moment to show that he wasn't, because he's suffering from PTSD. PTSD. We know that he's suffering from that, and that because we see scenes of him where he's like having flashbacks of the truly inhumane torture that those neo-Nazis did to him. And we know that he is not the same person that he was, and that he's a little bit more weak in the mind and not as likely to cause a scene or anything like that. But so we needed a scene where he gets some redemption and he gets a little bit back of himself. And I did worry that maybe the whole Neil thing felt thrown in. However, I appreciate the fact that they addressed who built that fence, because if you think about it, that chain link fence was sadistic, and it was only somebody truly sadistic could go into someplace, see a human being tied to that chain, and bet $50 that he can't escape it, and leave there without informing anyone of what he saw. Like, Neil is just as sadistic as Todd. He is just as problematic, just as evil, and it was nice to see that Jesse got some revenge on that. I don't think that he was intending to. I think that if Neil had given him the $1,800, it would have been done. Jesse would not have fought him on it. He would have taken it and left. But it was nice to see that Jesse was able to pull the trigger in the end, because even that scene I thought was very, very true to who Jesse's character is. Like, he's not as sophisticated as Walt. He's not a science whiz. Like, Walt... All right, sorry, my little one needed a quesadilla. Okay, so back to what I was saying. Walt is a little bit more of a science whiz. He's a lot more. He's brilliant. Like, we know that. We know that he can science his way out of almost every situation. And he does a really good job of it. And the thing that Jesse had over Walt was his street smarts, his ability to... pick out and figure out a room in such a way that I don't think Walt really could. Jesse went in there with plan A, which was to ask for the $1,800, and plan B. Okay, side note, this is me from the future. I am editing the video or listening to it, and I realize that I did not address something. I throw out the sum of $1,800. Jesse has to pay $1,800 to Ed, who we know from the series as a person who helps people disappear, felons disappear without a trace. He's really good at his job. He only offers it once. If you miss your one chance, you don't get a second chance. Jesse missed his one chance with Ed. He decided not to take him up on it. He didn't pay him for that trip. And Ed is willing to help him the second go around, but Jesse has to be able to pay for the trip that he missed and the trip that he's trying to take now. And Ed is not willing to negotiate any lower than that. Jesse is short $1,800 from the money that he took from Todd's apartment, because he split that money 3 ways with Neil and that man, Neil's friend, I can't remember his name. And so Jesse has to pay all of that money to Ed in order to escape. So he goes to Neil's compound to get said $1,800. All he needs is $1,800, and I think that he would have walked away with just that. And another thing that I really, really liked that I didn't address here was that interaction between Ed and Jesse. I love the cops being called and Jesse believing that Ed is lying about it and having to flee. That's just another prime example of Breaking Bad being able to be funny without being like, you know, a skit comedy or something. I don't know. Also, I love that Florence was in that. Florence from the Jeffersons, Marla Gibbs from the Jeffersons, who played Florence. I love that she was in that scene. I thought that was really, I don't know, I just like the nod. I like that she was in there. She was looking good. I mean, she's like pretty up there in age and she looked great. And it was nice just kind of just seeing her. She wasn't in the show or anything like that, but it was a nice nod. And I also read that she did a lot of ad-lib. So a lot of her scenes or her vocals, her speaking, I don't know what I'm trying to say, was just improvised. So yeah, I thought that was cool. Which was to take it in whatever means he needed to. Throughout the entire series, we know that Jesse is not ruthless in the way that Walt turned out to be. We know that Jesse has a moral compass and he has a softness for children. Does not believe that you should do harm to them, and he is less likely to pull the trigger than Walt is. But Jesse did have a plan B in place, which Neil offered a shootout for the 1,800 plus whatever money Neil had upstairs. So Neil offers Jesse a shootout, which is super Western, which is, I think, very fitting for the entire series because so much of that series is Western influenced, from the grand desert scenes, and to end it with a shootout I thought was really, Westerns aren't my thing, but I can appreciate that they are Vince Gilligan's thing and that the show is in some ways regarded as a more modern Western. So I did like that. I thought that that scene was really good. Let me see what my notes say, because now that I have to go get the quesadilla, I'm kind of out of whack. Oh, yeah, one thing I do want to say is that I didn't catch this. My friend caught it, and then so did the internet. But the scene with Todd from Breaking Bad, or from El Camino, where he has the flashback, or Jesse has a flashback, and he is seeing the tarantula that Todd took from one of the kids he killed, and he has little figurines in that terrarium for the tarantula. If you're a Black Mirror fan, there's a nod to Black Mirror, that the episode that Todd was in. It's a spoof off of Star Trek. I'm blanking on what exactly it was called, like Callistar or something. But yeah, I thought that was kind of cool once I learned about that connection. I thought that was a really cool little Easter egg. And I know that Todd even says Easter eggs. The house reminds me of Easter eggs. So it was pretty, I think as viewers, we're supposed to be open-minded to there being an Easter egg somewhere in there. And that was the one that I've seen people talk about the most. So I thought that was a really cool thing. I did love that the first place that Jesse goes when he escapes is to Skinny Pete and Badgers to get help from people who have been there for him, his friends, his true ride or dies, people who are truly good friends. And any of us would be lucky to have a Skinny Pete and Badger in our corner. I love that they gave him their money, and just truly loved Jesse in a way that is that we don't get to see, I think, in television when it comes to, or movies when it comes to men relationships. We see that with women shows, or shows that are focused or primarily focused on women's stories. We see that women band together and help each other out, but we don't really ever get to see that with shows centered on men as much, I don't think. Not that brotherhood, not that true, like, let me clothe you, let me, like, help you get out of this really bad situation. Let me tell you you're my hero. Like, that's the stuff that we don't really get to see too often, and I love that they put that in there. Male men friendships are just, they can run just as deep as women's, and I think that was really cool. And that show, Breaking Bad, in and of itself, is a super male centric show. And the fact that I like it is I don't know, kind of odd. I usually prefer the stories of women. Because because I am a woman, but also I just find those stories to be really deep and meaningful. And I think that Breaking Bad for me was just as deep and meaningful as any other story that I have liked. So I appreciated the complexities of their friendship and the fact that, they kind of fell out for a little bit, but in the end, his friends were there for him when he needed it most, and I loved it. I also loved the fact that they used their money to buy those chairs and, like, what was a Big Gulp drinks and video games. It was just very true to their characters. And yeah, in those scenes, I love those scenes because that was something, like, you feel for Jesse, who you're seeing as a shell of himself, but then you also are getting some humor from Skinny Pete and Badger in a way that that I think the show did really well before. Like I said before, the show is funny without being whatever that saying is, slap your knee slapping, comedy, whatever. So I did like that, and I think I mentioned Neil being sadistic and everything. I think I pretty much talked about everything. Oh, and of course, the really big, beautiful scene between Walt and Jesse when they were in the diner, that flashback to season 2, when Jesse and Walt are at the diner and Jesse's getting his food and he improvises, like, Aaron Paul did improvise the "yeah bitch," which it was nice to actually hear that again from him in a way. Even though it was a flashback scene, it felt like we were watching the old Jesse, which I really appreciated. And I was cracking up so hard when Walt was trying to tell Jesse to go get his GRE, and Jesse was like, "You handed me my diploma. How do you not know that? Like, you were on stage with me when I got my diploma." I thought that was so funny because it was true to their characters, right? Like, Walt was a really good teacher, but he didn't really see much in Jesse when Jesse was in school. And Jesse wasn't a star pupil. They were not interacting in a way that was meaningful when he was in high school with Walt. Like, I thought that scene was really, really well done. Didn't feel anything but just super nice to watch. And I like that we got to see the RV in the parking lot before all that stuff happened to it. So yeah, I really liked it. I give it an A or an A+. I thought it was great. It's not a story that we needed, but it's a story that I'm happy we got to watch and see. It's a story I feel connected to, and it's a story that I will revisit. I remember when the series ended, I made like a really big post about how thankful I was for Breaking Bad and Vince Gilligan for making such an amazing show with an amazing ending, and for the actors who did such great storytelling. And I still feel that way. I feel like there are some shows and movies that don't necessarily withstand time. They age pretty poorly. For me, and maybe I know a lot of people don't agree with this, but for me, Friends is one of those shows that just did not age well. I tried watching it recently, and the jokes are homophobic and super sexist, and it's not a show that I can necessarily get into the way that I used to. But I don't think Breaking Bad will be like that. I think Breaking Bad will be a show that I can definitely enjoy 20 years from now. And the El Camino movie, I think that you can watch it without ever having watched Breaking Bad, but I think the experience is enriched by watching Breaking Bad. I think that the nice thing that El Camino does is it does good flashbacks. However, if you don't know the significance of Walt, then that scene, that beautiful scene they gave us with them together, that flashback wouldn't mean anything. Same with Jane, when they did the flashback with Jane, which I really liked. I thought that was awesome. I think if you did not watch the show, then those would be scenes that you would be like, who are these people? Who are these ghosts that he's listening or talking to? But other than that, I do really like it. And if you decide to watch it, or if you have watched it and you want to talk about it, let me know. I can talk about it forever. Like, I really think it's something that I could talk about for a bit. I know some people don't like talking about shows or movies and endings. I think that once it's ended, let it go. But honestly, like, whenever I finish a really good book, I think about it forever. I envy anybody who gets to start it for the first time. Like, I feel that way with the series Harry Potter. Anybody who gets to read it for the first time, I'm just like, oh, I'm jealous. That's how I feel about Breaking Bad. Like, if you're watching it for the first time and you're enjoying it and you're gonna finish it, like, I'm envious because it's such a good show, such a good watching experience, and El Camino was just like a cherry on the top of a beautiful Sunday that didn't need the cherry, but I'm thankful that the cherry is there. All right, with that being said, let me know what you thought about the movie. If you watched it, did you think the movie was needed, or was it just like a filler? I know some people didn't like it. I've been reading reviews, and I know people did not necessarily, some critics didn't like the movie, which I don't get why. Breaking Bad could make an episode about, Vince Gilligan can make an episode about killing a fly, and I would be enthralled by it. And he did do that. And there's no other show that can make an episode about killing a fly, riveting television. But he did. So yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I know this is super different, but like I said, I needed to get it out there. I really want to talk about it with people who have watched it and enjoyed it. And if you don't plan on watching it, why not? I hope that you all have a great day, whatever time of day it is for you. And remember to go out and do some good. Don't break bad, and create some joy for yourself. And I will see you next time.